A dedicated father is gunned down steps from his front door.
I was screaming and hollering, somebody call the police. This man just got shot. Nobody knew what had happened.
The crime sends a shockwave through a quiet, God-fearing community.
It was a mess. It was crazy.
They were thinking it could have been a robbery or a drug deal gone bad.
But as the case unfolds, a closet full of hidden secrets and deadly desires is laid bare.
It was this crazy romantic roller coaster that was starting to spiral out of control. I knew what happened. I just knew it. I can't explain why I knew or how I knew, but I knew.
Call it love, call it fear, I don't know.
All the evidence pointed straight to her.
I know damn good and well, if he didn't go down, he would have killed me.
May 29th, 2014. At an apartment complex in Old East Dallas, Texas, resident Samuel Collins is enjoying a quiet evening in front of his television when he decides to get some fresh air.
Hey, I'm gonna go get me a little air. It's done got hot in here.
I was getting up out of bed. I said, well, I'm gonna go outside for a minute. Then I heard the 2 shots. When I heard 2 shots, I thought, wow, them gunshots. I went outside in the hallway. I seen the gun smoke.
But beyond the smoke and smell of burning gunpowder, there's something else that catches Samuel's eye.
He is lying on there, on the floor.
The victim was Roderick Smith. He lived in the apartment complex, so he was found just a few doors away from where he lived.
Roderick was found face down. He had suffered a shot to the abdomen and then also one to the head.
I told my wife to call 911. I was hollering in the hallway, call police, call ambulance, just get some help up in here.
As he waits for dispatchers to arrive, Samuel does his best to comfort Roderick.
All I can see is him, just looking at me. I'm trying to tell him, hang on in there, hang on in there, hang in there, man. Trying to get you some help.
Unfortunately, before paramedics arrive, Roderick Smith passes away.
You seen that one tear come out of his eye and took a last breath. I said, damn. So he gone.
Residents are stunned that their affable neighbor could fall prey to such a horrific act.
Roderick Smith went to work, he came home, he pretty much stayed to himself, never caused any problems. So they were very shocked when they found that he had been shot.
I never knew Rod to have any enemies, get in any fights, anything like that. He was a tough guy, but he just didn't bother anybody. He was just a good guy. Always happy-go-lucky, smile on his face.
But behind the smiling face was a man who harbored a closet full of secrets. Secrets that, when brought to light, might well have cost Roderick Smith his life.
It was hard to comprehend. I was speechless.
Roderick Smith was born and raised in the Dallas suburb of Pleasant Grove. It was there that he first made a name for himself, both in the classroom and on the gridiron.
Roderick was always an A student, and then he was a great athlete. He was really a good football player, and that went on from junior high to high school. He excelled in high school.
We called him Greyhound because of his speed. He ran track and played football.
We had a football team called the Trojans. He was the running back. He was good enough to where he was rewarded a scholarship to New Mexico in Albuquerque.
While Roderick's on-the-field talent earned him a scholarship, his good looks earned the attention of all the girls at school.
He was good to do it. Well-dressed.
He was always neat, had a nice smile, and he was intelligent. He was a charmer. He had fans.
Even though the star running back had his fair share of admirers, when it came to love, Roderick only had eyes for one young lady, Monique Rogers.
He started dating Monique when we were in the 8th grade, and they dated through high school. And then after his freshman year in college, they married.
Babe, guess what?
Hey, what's up? What's going on?
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this.
What?
I have some really big news for you.
Okay. Lay it on me.
You're gonna be a daddy.
Oh my gosh. Come here. Are you serious?
Yes, I'm positive.
In 1988, Roderick and Monique welcomed into the world a beautiful baby girl who they named Portia. Over the next decade, the couple had 2 more children together. And though Roderick never made it as a professional football player, he believed he was living a dream life.
Along with Portia, they had another girl, Allison, and a boy, Riley.
He loved his wife. He loved his family.
He had gotten on with the fire department here in Dallas.
He did very well in the fireman exam. He was very intelligent. He had 3 beautiful children. He was a good family man, a good example.
But just when it seemed Roderick and Monique had it all, tragedy struck.
His first daughter, his oldest daughter, Portia, she passed. She had sickle cell. And when she passed, he wasn't at his best at that point. That was devastating for the family.
That was the thing that he fought on a daily basis. And he fought depression from it. Then he fought his depression with cocaine. And he would always get upset with himself when he did.
He was using crack. It was a battle for him. It was difficult for him. But he would do well, and then he would fall back off and disappear. And that became like after a while, you just kind of let him do his thing because he wasn't coming around. He wasn't listening to anyone.
He went through some hard times, and he later lost his job. He lost his job with the fire department.
He provided for his family and his children. He just had some demons that he was fighting.
People would tell me that they would see him and he wasn't looking too good. Him and Monique ended up getting a divorce, and he just, fell on some hard times.
Slowly but surely, though, this former star running back battled his addiction and got his life back on track.
He was working, going back to school. He was around his kids and communicating with his family more, just having a more positive outlook on life. It was just a matter of being focused. And so he got back to that point.
He eventually got a job as a plasma screener in the medical field.
He was looking better. I heard he was doing a lot better.
Roderick was doing so well, in fact, that he soon parlayed his work as a plasma screener into a job as a medical assistant in one of Dallas's most prestigious hospitals. And even though he'd endured the loss of a child and a painful divorce, with his life now back on track, Roderick decided to give love another chance.
He was dating around. He wanted love.
In the spring of 2014, Roderick ran into a former coworker he hadn't seen in years. Her name was Kimberly McCrae.
Kim.
Like Roderick, Kim was a divorcee who had raised her own children. Roderick and I worked at the Plasma Center in Dallas together. He was a screener, and I worked on the floor. I lost contact with him. By the time I caught back up with him, he was working at Baylor, downtown Dallas, in the cardiac unit, and had been there for right at 5 years.
Man, don't you look good? You're a sight for sore eyes.
You look great. Me and him just really seemed to click. We really seemed to hit it off. It's like we never lost any time. We just kind of picked up where we left off.
Kimberly was in a relationship, but later on, when she was not in a relationship, Kimberly sought him out.
Their relationship started out as friendly, but he quickly evolved to something more.
He had the most beautiful smile. When he smiled, his eyes sparkled. He just sucked you in with a smile.
The more she started hanging out with Roderick, the closer she became to him.
I remember we were sitting on the corner of his bed, and he just sat down beside me and leaned over and kissed me. I mean, I remember just being so excited because I always thought he was so cute. Oh my gosh. I always thought he was handsome, even when I first met him.
From the moment they first kissed, Roderick and Kimberly were inseparable.
Roderick and I were so happy. I mean, he was just head over heels with me, and I was head over heels with him.
He treated her with respect. He treated her like a woman wants to be treated.
It seemed like Roderick and Kimberly had finally found true love.
But on the evening of May 29th, 2014, their blossoming romance was drowned in bullets and blood.
A neighbor had called the police when they heard gunshots, and Roderick's body was discovered in the hallway of his apartment complex.
It was a mess. It was crazy.
However, as the investigation into Roderick's death unfolds, the demons of his past will resurface, along with a slew of other tawdry revelations that prove Roderick and Kimberly's newfound romance was far more dangerous than anyone imagined.
When you go through a scene, you see drug paraphernalia and or drugs. First thing you know, drug deal gone bad.
But the police find out there's more to this case than just drugs.
May 2014, after struggling through divorce, drug addiction, and the death of his daughter, former star running back Roderick Smith appears to have conquered his demons.
Roderick beat his crack cocaine addiction. He had a new job at an area hospital, and he had a new woman in his life that he was crazy about.
Kimberly McCrae was an old friend and colleague of his, They reconnected and had this explosive love affair.
But on May 29th, Roderick is inexplicably gunned down in a hail of bullets.
When police get on the scene, of course, neighbors are on edge. They'd heard the gunshots, and then there's a deceased man outside his apartment. And so there was a lot of kind of unknowns about what happened and if the shooter was still around.
After police secure the scene, Roderick's loved ones get the call no family ever wants to hear.
When I heard about it, it tore me up.
While Roderick's murder sends a chill through the hearts of friends and family, that night investigators try to ascertain what happened.
Roderick Smith suffered 2 gunshot wounds, one to the abdomen that came out through his arm, actually broke his arm, and then one to the face, and that bullet was lodged inside his brain.
On the floor near Roderick's body, investigators find 2 shell casings and a kitchen knife.
It looked as though the altercation had taken place there at the front door, and initially it was hard to tell whether the killer was wielding both the gun and the knife, or what.
Stepping into Roderick's apartment, investigators quickly determine the source of the knife and who was likely wielding it.
Here's where the knife came from.
There was a drawer that was open, so you could tell the victim quickly ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. That knife was found a few feet away from the victim's body. That gave the indication that there was some struggle and that at some point either the knife was knocked out of his hand or he could have dropped the knife when that gunshot wound went through his arm.
But what had sparked this attack, and who was the aggressor? Clues found at the scene give investigators one idea.
They both still out.
There were just pieces of wood that were laying inside the apartment, and the lock was still engaged, so it appeared as though it had been kicked open.
When you're looking at the door getting kicked in, you're saying, okay, well, maybe it's a burglary.
He could have been robbed or murdered that way because of the area that he lived it was pretty fast over there.
It's kind of a bad area. A lot of robberies and stuff going on over there.
But as investigators continue searching Roderick's apartment, they discover there's a catch in their robbery theory.
There was nothing missing. The apartment was fairly clean, undisturbed.
Police were able to dismiss the motive of robbery. There was nothing taken from the apartment.
No sooner have investigators shelved the notion of armed robbery than a discovery in Roderick's bedroom ushers in another possible motive.
Hey, detectives, found something back here. You should take a look.
The officers lifted his mattress and found drug paraphernalia and drugs inside the apartment.
When you go to the scene, yeah, you find drug paraphernalia, yeah, you find drugs. You think, okay, we got a drug deal gone bad.
Once police found drugs in Roderick's apartment, then of course the case took on kind of a different aspect too, because they didn't know how the drugs were involved. Police want to talk to family and close friends.
Once Roderick's family gets word of his death, they rush to the scene.
Do you know if Roderick was involved with any drugs?
I mean, that was in his past. He had a problem with that before, but man, he's been clean for a while.
Well, we found some paraphernalia in the apartment, and we believe that may be the cause.
For Roderick's loved ones, the revelation that he had seemingly backslid into the world of hard drugs hits them like a punch to the gut.
It was hard to comprehend that. I was speechless. I was numb. He was on the road to doing better. I mean, he, to my knowledge, didn't have any struggles any longer. But, you know, as we all found out, that wasn't the case. He still had a few weaknesses.
While friends and family are unable to shed any light on Roderick's recent drug use, they do clue police into Roderick's burgeoning romance with Kimberly McCrae.
Kim's name came up through Roderick's son as someone that been coming over and talking to his dad.
How long was your dad involved with Kim?
A couple of months, I think.
She may or may not have been the last person that I've seen over at Roderick's house. So because of that, she is a person of interest. We want to talk to her to see what she knows. You know, maybe she can give us some idea of what happened or what's going on.
So police were aware that there was a female who possibly stayed at the home, and they were looking for her.
As the true nature of Kim and Roderick's relationship comes into focus, detectives begin to wonder if Kim might have contributed to Roderick's drug relapse and perhaps even his death.
I did see a whole lot of people come over there to party, you know, so I could smell it all through the hallway, you know, so yeah, they were doing drugs over there.
They had a common interest, and that was using crack cocaine.
Hours after the shooting death of 48-year-old Roderick Smith, authorities in Dallas, Texas are working tirelessly to try to identify his killer. But other than a couple of shell casings, concrete evidence is hard to come by.
We had no DNA. We didn't have any fingerprints from any potential suspects. We just had the 2 shell casings. And everything that was lifted as far as fingerprints came back to Roderick.
The only lead detectives had at this point was the discovery of the drugs inside Roderick's bedroom.
According to neighbors, Roderick's girlfriend, Kimberly McCrae, normally spent the night at Roderick's place. But when police arrived at the apartment shortly after the shooting, Kimberly wasn't there.
Yeah, his girlfriend drove a white car, but it wasn't here last night.
Are you sure?
Positive.
It was suspicious at first because Kimberly tended to spend the night at Roderick's apartment every night. But that night, she hadn't spent the night.
Detectives also discovered that in addition to their intense physical bond, they share a history of drug abuse, specifically crack cocaine. And it seems like they both fueled this addiction in each other.
So naturally, there's a question of whether she could somehow be involved. Maybe her addiction and some unknown problem she had with Roderick culminated into this crime.
Drugs definitely alter your decisions.
There's also the possibility that Kimberly was a victim too. She could have been abducted by whoever killed Roderick.
Whether she's a victim or whether she's a perpetrator, police need to speak to Kimberly McCrae ASAP.
Dallas police immediately issue a search for Kimberly McCrae. Shortly thereafter, they make contact with her at her mother's apartment.
They got hold of Kim. Kim went down to the police department to give a statement.
My detective had contacted me and said they need to speak with me. And I told him as soon as I get my mom situated, I'll be there. So I went downtown and I interviewed with the detective there. My emotions were so all over the place. I was crying, 1 minute, and I couldn't even think straight. And I just didn't know what to think, really.
When she did talk to the detective, she was very forthcoming.
Fighting back a flood of tears, Kim informs investigators that she just learned of Roderick's death a couple of hours earlier.
And my daughter-in-law, she called me and she was like, Mom, what's going on with your boyfriend? And I'm like, well, what do you mean?
She said, Mom, there's rest in peace all over his Facebook page. And I'm like, what? And when she was telling me this, my heart just started sinking. I called the morgue and I told them, I need to know if you guys have my boyfriend. I can't get a hold of him. And she puts me on a hold and she comes back and she says, so who are you? And I said, I'm his girlfriend. And she goes, you're the girlfriend. I said, yes. She said, okay, well, all I can tell you is that, yeah, we have him. He's here. And his time of death was 10 minutes till 8 last night.
Although Kimberly seems devastated by Roderick's death, investigators must press forward with their interview.
Have you and Roderick ever used recreational drugs together?
Recreationally. We had jobs, we had to live.
Even though he had a substance abuse problem, he worked Monday through Friday and he would use drugs on the weekend.
Kimberly did suggest that she was able to control her drug use better than Roderick was, particularly when he was overcome with sadness over the death of his daughter, Portia. He would try to pull back out and, say, I'm not going down that road again, I won't do it. But then he fought his depression with his daughter so hard. He really took it hard.
Have you two ever argued over drugs, or did he owe anybody any money?
No.
Okay, where were you last night?
I stayed every single night, except the very night he was murdered. I did not stay that night.
Detectives are thinking this may not be a coincidence. Why this night, of all nights?
Kimberly's alibi for that evening was that she was spending time with her mother, and so that's why she hadn't spent the night at Roderick's apartment that night.
My mom was in the hospital. She had been in the hospital for that whole previous year. Basically, she was home here and there, but not much.
Her mother was ill, so she's been spending a lot of time taking care of her mom.
The day of the murder, I got in my car to leave work, and I called my mom, and I said, are you okay? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, I feel like I need to be coming there to see you. I went on out to the hospital, and she called me back, and she said, well, if you're coming, give me a shake. I said, okay. So I stopped and got her a chocolate shake and took it to her.
The detectives were able to obtain Kimberly's phone records, and they were able to determine that she was nowhere near the offense location when it happened.
Her alibi checked out that she was with her mom.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
With Kimberly seemingly eliminated as a suspect, investigators turn their attention back to the crime scene and the other residents of the Haskell Avenue apartment complex.
Police interview Roderick's neighbors, but most of those interviews lead nowhere.
However, when police again speak to Roderick's neighbor, Samuel Collins, who made the initial 911 call, He provides police with new details about the night of the crime.
I was at home watching TV. I decided I was going to get up and get some air.
He described what he heard as 2 loud noises.
First, I thought it was fireworks. But when the second one came off, I said, no, that doesn't sound like no fireworks to me. So when that happened, I looked out the window, seen the guy running.
Mr. Collins did describe the male as a person that was trying to get away. He did not recognize him from the area. He had never seen that guy before.
He looked suspicious. This guy hit running. Then I seen the gun.
Unfortunately, Samuel Collins never got a clear look at the man's face.
I saved my distance. I didn't go to the window so he can spot me looking out, because I don't need him shooting up there, hey, got family in my house too.
Have you been to Greyhound?
Though Collins is unable to provide police with a detailed description of the suspected shooter, another neighbor, Maria Lancaster, tells police she got a better look at the guy.
I just left my apartment and someone ran down the stairs.
She was exiting her apartment. She saw the man come down the stairs. He was a taller man, kind of a larger stature.
But as tantalizing as these 2 accounts are, there's not a clear-cut identification to go on. And without a name or any other physical evidence, this case can't move forward.
Any other distinguishing markings or tattoos or anything you could tell us?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that close of a look.
At that point, the detectives were at a dead end. They had a description of a suspect, but they had no idea who the suspect was.
Thank you for your time.
But it turns out Roderick's girlfriend, Kimberly, has been sitting on a piece of information, one that has the potential to blow the case wide open.
When police heard this, they were just completely speechless.
Call it love, call it fear, I don't know.
May 30th, 2014, less than 24 hours after Roderick Smith's shooting death, Dallas detectives are still trying to put a name to the face of the armed suspect seen fleeing Roderick's apartment complex just moments after the incident.
He was described as a tall, balding African-American man, and witnesses said they saw him running from the scene with a gun.
Was this guy a drug dealer? Was he trying to steal Roderick's stash in a fight erupted? Was there some other beef?
While investigators aren't yet sure, Roderick's autopsy report may provide a clue.
Looking at the wounds, it's like someone actually stood over Roderick and shot him once he was down.
When you have close contact like that, it's one thing for a victim to go down and not be able to defend themselves, but to walk over and do a close shot to finish him off, it seems very personal.
It makes you wonder if there's more going on here than meets the eye.
But who would want to inflict such personal vengeance on Roderick? To answer that question, investigators bring his girlfriend, Kimberly McCrae, in for another round of questioning. This time, Kimberly makes a startling confession.
Kimberly said that shortly before taking up with Roderick Smith, she had broken up with her old boyfriend, Rodney Smith, who is no relation to Roderick.
Rodney Smith was Kim's off-again, on-again boyfriend for about 9 years.
She did think that, she would eventually marry him.
But Kimberly says in the months leading up to their final breakup, she began to question whether Rodney was truly husband material.
He didn't work. He had no job. He never had a job.
I was always the one working. Everything I had, he took. If I had a cell phone, he needed it. If I had a car, he needed it. He started wanting to go into my money. And I'm like, okay, look, we got to pay rent. Got my car, I've got all those bills I've got to pay. He hounded me and harassed me until I'd finally just throw money at him and say, just go do whatever the hell it is you're wanting to go do to leave me alone.
Is it possible that once Kimberly started dating Roderick, Rodney became jealous and confronted his new rival, a confrontation that escalated into murder? For investigators, the jealousy motive would seem to gel with the deeply personal nature of the crime. But Kimberly explains there's just one problem with that theory.
They were all 3 friends.
Do you think there's any chance that Rodney has anything to do with this death?
No way. No, Rodney and Roderick were good friends. All 3 of us used to hang out. We had a good time together, and everything was good.
Roderick needed a ride home from work one day, so Rodney and I took him. And then from that point, we all just kind of started hanging out.
3 of them was like in this little group together. Rodney and Kim would go to Roderick's apartment and do drugs. And then other times they would just hang out.
But Kimberly says that while the 3 friends were extremely tight, there were problems in her and Rodney's relationship that extended far beyond his financial dependence on her.
It was an abusive relationship, a turbulent relationship.
Rodney, he could be Jekyll and Hyde. One minute, he could have the biggest heart. He would literally go somebody the shirt off his back. I seen him cry. I seen him pray. I seen a lot of good stuff in him. But then there was the threats, and there, it just kind of went back and forth.
Eventually, Kim grew tired of Rodney's emotional roller coaster and his appetite for cocaine, which far exceeded hers or Roderick's.
He was a cocaine addict, smoked crack, and I did too, I'm not gonna lie. But that's all he lived for. So if he wasn't getting high, he was eating or sleeping. End of story. Nothing in between.
Rodney and Kim got into an argument about Rodney's drug use and spending money.
You keep taking my damn money.
Because you don't know what to do with it.
Kim put up money for bills. Rodney wanted to continue to party with the money, and she wouldn't allow him.
I had told him, I'm done with you taking things from me. I'm done. What happened the night that we officially broke up was we had gotten in a really big fight, and he had a real bad habit of threatening me.
Get paid. No, you're going to sit down. No.
He pushed her.
No, you want to walk away like a little child, then I'll treat you like a child.
And she called 911. Police responded.
They didn't arrest him because he didn't actually hit me, but they kicked him out.
Kim says that after that incident, she was done with Rodney for good and turned to Roderick for a shoulder to cry on.
She was starting to move in Roderick's directions because this guy was being erratic and having controlling behavior and becoming violent and threatening to her. She was afraid of Rodney.
She called Roderick for comfort, and Roderick said, hey, come to my house where you can be safe and you just don't go back tonight. Just come stay here. He was a true gentleman.
It was probably 2:00 in the morning by this point, and I had to go to work the next day. We went back to his place, and I was, just headache, exhausted, crying, tired, the whole 9 yards. So I fell asleep within probably 30 minutes of us getting back to his place. And the next day at work, he called me all day to check on me and text me, are you okay? Are you okay? And I kept saying, yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine. And thank you for letting me stay there. I ended up coming back over to his house that night as well. Spent the night again.
I believe that Kim was looking for an escape from Rodney Smith, and she ran into the arms of Roderick Smith. He was comfortable for her. He was someone that she was familiar with, and his place was a safe haven for her.
It was in Roderick's arms that Kim finally found a devoted lover and true friend.
It was kind of, we were both on the same page at that point.
But as Kim explains, her ex wasn't about to let her go without a fight.
Rodney, the whole time, was sending her messages on Facebook trying to get her to call him because she changed her phone number. She was trying to get rid of him.
I was happy with Roderick. I had no intention of going back to Rodney. I had none whatsoever.
Kim wanted to be with Roderick, not Rodney. But she knew that if Rodney found out about she and Roderick's relationship, he would be furious. So she and Roderick decided to keep their romance a secret.
Kim felt like she had found a guy that, could show her more than just taking money from her. Someone to give her something. And she was excited about that. And she really was hoping to spend more time with Roderick for that.
However, Kim tells police that on May 25th, she made a critical mistake.
Roderick and I went to Louisiana, spent the day, gambled. Rodney had seen the pictures on Facebook.
According to Kim, 4 days after returning from Louisiana, Rodney confronted her.
That conversation did not go well. I believe in his mind, he always thought that they would get back together. And Roderick Smith was that one person that was going to prevent that from happening.
He goes, do you love him? And I said, well, I'll be honest, I care a lot about him. I really do. And he said, do you love him? And I said, yeah, I guess I do.
While Kim has given authorities a tantalizing peek at a man with a possible motive, there's one important clue that has yet to be revealed, and it may be the missing piece to this whole sordid puzzle.
Everybody knows this gentleman. Friends, family, everybody.
Detectives in Dallas are questioning Kimberly McCrae about the brutal shooting death of her boyfriend, Roderick Smith.
They're together, they're in love, everything's going great, and then all of a sudden, Roderick shot twice outside of his apartment.
Kimberly also explains that her abusive ex-boyfriend, Rodney Smith, got wind of her and Roderick's relationship after she posted pictures of their trip to a Louisiana casino on social media. And Rodney was none too pleased that his former girlfriend was now hooking up with his former friend.
Rodney was jealous, and he was not happy when he saw that she was happy with someone else.
Everybody knows Rodney's temper. Friends, family, everybody. So we were very cautious of him knowing that we were together because we didn't trust him.
Kim's revelation and the fact that they all did drugs and her ex Rodney did more than any of them made him the number one suspect in Roderick's death.
Kim tells detectives that on May 29th, Rodney called her and confronted her about her relationship with Roderick.
Rodney said, "Is it Roderick?" And I got real quiet. I didn't say anything because I didn't know. It took me off guard. I didn't know how to answer that. And he goes, "It's him, ain't it?" "It is. It's him." And he got ballistic. He was like, "That mother," started cussing. He said, "Will you tell that nigga I'm gonna shoot him?"
It may sound like the damning piece of evidence investigators need, but Kim insists that Rodney's threat was just hot air.
Kimberly did not take that threat seriously because Rodney Smith had made several threats to her. That's just what he would do.
That's what he's always done. Out of our 9 years, I was threatened so many times I couldn't even tell you.
But really nothing would come of the threats. And so, of course, over a long period of time when someone does that, it's kind of like crying wolf. And so you no longer kind of take it seriously.
That's just Rodney. That's just how he rolls. He gets mad. He threatens. That's the end of it. He calms down, moves on.
Though she claims these were just idle threats, Kim's statement leads authorities to believe they're on the right track.
The threats that Rodney Smith had made on Roderick Smith's life was the key information that the detectives were looking for. In this case, that gave them a motive, which they didn't have before.
Once Kimberly talks to investigators, they're really able to find out a lot of information about Rodney in terms of, his past. Then they do their own research on Rodney and find that he had records and he had been in trouble with the police numerous times.
Despite their growing suspicions, police still need to place Rodney at the scene of the crime.
So the detectives did what they call a double-blind lineup.
It's double-blind because the person who's presenting the photo lineup does not know who the suspect is. It protects the integrity of the identification. The photo lineup administrator is the person who presents the lineup to the witness, and they just pretty much ask a question. They're asking them, is this the person you saw leaving the offense location? It's videotaped generally, and it's done at DPD headquarters.
The first eyewitness to examine the double-blind lineup is neighbor Maria Lancaster.
It's him.
She had no problem picking him out.
Maria was able to identify Rodney Smith in the double-blind lineup. She looked at the photograph and said that she was sure she had picked out the right person.
Miss Maria was very distinct. She said that she remembered Rodney Smith's eyes. She said she would never forget his eyes.
Kimberly McCrae is still at the station when detectives inform her that Rodney Smith has been positively ID'd as the man seen fleeing the apartment complex shortly after Roderick's murder.
He sat down, he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he said, "It was Rodney." And I'm like, I got mad instantly. I was so mad. What the hell was wrong with him?
As police strategize what to do next, they realize the answer is sitting right across from them.
I told the detective, I said, "Look, I can find him for you. All I gotta do is call him and tell him I want to see him. I can find him."
Get him on the phone, but put it on speaker so we can all hear it.
Okay. Kimberly really played a crucial role in helping police to apprehend Rodney.
I call Rodney and I say, "Hey, baby, where are you? You're right. We do need to talk. I do want to see you. Where are you?" And he says, "I'm at Carl's," which is some apartments that we would go hang out at. I said, "Okay, I'll be there." So we hung up. And in the meantime, the detectives were getting the force together to go.
Kimberly was supposed to pick up Rodney Smith at a location in Dallas. And instead of Kimberly showing up, the police showed up.
When the police department pulled in, he saw the police officers there. They gave him commands. He complied to commands, didn't put up a fight, went peacefully.
When Rodney was brought in, he denied everything. He denied being at Roderick's apartment. He denied even knowing Roderick.
With Kim's statement and Maria Lancaster's positive identification of him, authorities believe they have all the evidence they need to press charges against Rodney Smith.
Rodney Smith was charged with murder.
When we found out that he was arrested for the murder, we all felt better.
Roderick's family was enraged, but they were glad that law enforcement caught the right guy.
What gave him the right? I just couldn't believe it. I was just a lot of anger, a lot.
But as the case heads to trial, the sense that justice is about to be served gives way to another more ominous feeling that the man who put Roderick Smith 6 feet under has his own story to tell, one that may allow an alleged killer to walk out of court a free man.
He's smooth, he's believable, he's a great talker.
Rodney Smith was very suave. He was very convincing when he spoke to you.
August 28, 2015. Rodney Smith's murder trial gets underway inside a Dallas courtroom. 49-year-old Smith stands accused of shooting his old pal, Roderick Smith, who Rodney allegedly murdered after he discovered Roderick was dating his ex-girlfriend, Kimberly McCrae.
The community as a whole took it pretty hard. Everybody was upset, you know. Everybody.
I went through major guilt because I knew everybody kept telling me that it's not your fault. It's not your fault. No, it wasn't my fault. No, I had nothing to do with it at all. But the bottom line is, if he wouldn't have been with me, he would still be alive.
In their opening statements, prosecutors assert Kim's sentiments are dead on.
He had made comments that Kim belonged to him. He was upset that Roderick took what was his.
Looked at her more like property than an individual who has a right to choose who they want to associate themselves with.
Rodney found out about Kim and Roderick. Rodney told Kim what he was going to do. He was going to go over there and kill him.
Being under the influence of drugs or whatever, crack or whatever you want to call it, I'm sure he wasn't in his right mind, because that's not clear thinking.
I think he just snapped. He didn't think it through.
Having outlined Rodney's motive, prosecutors spell out for the jury what they believe happened next.
Rodney get his gun, goes over to Roderick's apartment, kicks the door, bam. And there's Rodney standing with a gun. There's Roderick with his knife. It all went down right there in front of the door. Rodney shoots Roderick once. Rodney shoots him again while he's down.
The state actually called forensic experts to the stand to confirm all of this, that he shot Roderick while he was on the ground.
For prosecutors, it all adds up to a clear-cut case of murder. But when Rodney's lead defense attorney takes the floor, he turns the state's jealousy motive on its head.
He laid out a self-defense claim. He stated that Roderick Smith came towards him. Roderick was the initial aggressor in this case.
Family and friends of Roderick Smith were concerned about the idea of it being self-defense, because really it was just them two. You know, no one really knew what happened except both of them.
The defense attorney during the trial made that a big issue. His theory was that Rodney Smith came over to have a conversation with Roderick Smith, and Roderick Smith was the aggressor.
To support this claim, Rodney's defense team calls a surprise witness to the stand.
Rodney decided to take the stand and testify on his own behalf.
This is a really risky maneuver on the part of the defense. Criminal defendants rarely take the stand because it can really go one of two ways. Oftentimes, it can backfire on them, but sometimes it can strike a chord with the jury and set them free.
According to Rodney, his encounter with Roderick that day wasn't fueled by jealous rage.
He said it was drug related, that Roderick bought some drugs and they had smoked it and Rodney owed him money.
He said that he went over to talk to Roderick, not to fight him, not to cause harm, but Roderick came at him with a knife and he was only defending himself.
As Rodney's testimony unfolds, it's clear he's scoring points with the jury.
He was kind of smooth and soft. He testified during the trial, and he looked at the jury and he smiled, and he was, poised and very well spoken.
He was so good, so manipulative, that he could have you where he wanted you without you even knowing you were there.
Yeah, he's very articulate, and a lot of the family members were worried that he may get off.
It was certainly a on the edge worry of, is this guy gonna get away with this? There's no guarantees on anything.
To support Rodney's testimony, his defense team points to the location of Roderick's body at the scene of the crime.
The fact that Roderick's body was found down the hall from his apartment with a knife nearby supported the defense theory that Rodney shot him in self-defense. I mean, if Roderick wasn't the original aggressor, why wasn't his body found in the doorway or maybe in his apartment?
I think the biggest issue we faced during the trial was where Roderick's body was located. It was quite a distance from his front door. It made it seem like he came out toward the defendant in an attacking form. versus being defensive.
Prosecutors counter by reminding the jury that while Rodney may sound convincing, his story isn't backed up by the facts of the case.
His story was not supported by the physical evidence that was left at the scene.
We countered that with the physical evidence of the door frame was kicked in. It's logical to believe that Roderick Smith heard the door kick open and went toward it. Therefore, the fight ensued outside the door.
Making matters worse for the defendant, state attorneys revealed that Rodney shouldn't have been in possession of a gun.
He shouldn't have had the gun. He was a convicted felon, so he wasn't supposed to have a gun, and he should have never taken one to the location.
So on the one hand, you have the forensics laid out by the state, which is very compelling. But on the other hand, you have Rodney Smith, who is a very charming witness on the stand. And he doesn't miss a chance to remind the jury that Roderick Smith was dabbling in drugs as well, which makes him less of a sympathetic victim. So really, the case is a toss-up at this point.
But later that day, prosecutors play their trump card and call Kimberly McCrae to the stand.
I testified at trial, the whole situation of Rodney and I breaking up and Roderick and I getting into a relationship and the phone call and Rodney being upset because he found out it was Roderick and the threat that he made.
She testified that it was, in fact, a violent relationship and that she wanted to get away from Rodney Smith.
It took a lot of strength and courage for Kimberly to sit there and tell her story about these two men that she once loved and cared for. But her testimony was vital.
And if a jury isn't to be swayed by Kim's account of Rodney's violent past, it's his foolhardy behavior behind bars that finally seals his fate.
Rodney had threatened to kill Kim from jail. We received that information from one of his cellmates.
He felt very betrayed by Kim. He made one of his first jail phone calls was to his sons, and he said, "They got me. That B. Kim set me up."
He pretty much laid the foundation for our case in those jail calls.
When they played the recording, all he could do was hold his head down.
On August 29th, both sides rest their case. Just 2 hours later, the jury returns with a verdict.
When they returned, they came back with a guilty on a murder charge.
Rodney got the maximum life sentence.
I was elated. Not that I wanted to destroy anyone's life, but a life has been taken. You were found guilty. You should be held accountable for that.
I was pleased with it, They got him. And he got his just due.
When I found out he got life, there was a sigh of relief.
Roderick Smith may have had a checkered past, but he was a good guy. He turned his life around. He didn't deserve to die in cold blood. The jury got this case right by convicting Rodney Smith and making him pay for this crime.
In the wake of Roderick's murder, Kimberly McCrae checked into rehab and has been clean and sober since.
Losing someone she loved so much was a huge wake-up call for Kim. She realized that life is short and she wanted to make the best of it by getting off drugs for good and being the best version of herself that she possibly could be.
I mean, I was a basket case. I loved him. I really did. He loved me just like I loved him. I have no doubt about that. I have finally come to terms with this murder, and I just had to move on.
The collateral damage in this case is really 2 lives. I mean, one's going to be in prison for the rest of his life. The other is dead.
This case showed that love can be dangerous. When 2 men are in love with the same woman, it can make them do some unthinkable things. Jealousy is a strong emotion, and unfortunately for Roderick Smith, he experienced that jealousy firsthand.
She was young and beautiful, with the world at her fingertips.
She was one of those ones that people just draw to.
Loved people, caring, sharing, would give her very last to anyone. She was quite a girl.
He was the easygoing star of the football team, who swept her off her feet.
It always was Mondre, oh Mondre.
Together, their chemistry could light up a stadium.
That attraction lasted from middle school to high school to after graduation. It was always them. I've never seen her so attracted to anyone else.
But just as their relationship made the transition from puppy love to full-blown romance, a mysterious disappearance rocked their world.
A lot of people in the neighborhood were concerned.
I was praying to God to help me.
The search for the truth will expose a secret so powerful and so heartbreaking, it will leave one family desperate for justice.
It was like something you see in a drama movie. You don't expect for these things to happen to you or to happen in your family.
Friday, September 12th, 2008. It's a warm autumn evening in Shreveport, Louisiana, when James and Glenda Watson make their way to a local fishing hole off LaGuardia Road.
Let's try this spot right up here.
Okay.
Only the locals knew about it. I mean, if you did not know about this place, you would never find it.
This should be a good spot.
Yeah, I think so.
They were out fishing, and he and his companion noticed something floating in the water.
What's that over under the tree?
Oh, I'm not sure.
We'll go check it out.
They were some ways off, so he went over to check.
That looks like a body.
They realized that it's a body.
The water had been snake infested. The body was ravaged and bloated. And in fact, skin was starting to come off the body.
They immediately leave the area and call the police.
As authorities race to the scene, little do they know that this investigation is about to collide with another case that's boiling over with passion, shrouded in secrets, with a beautiful co-ed at its heart. Born January 22nd, 1990, Tavia Sills was beloved by friends and family alike.
She's the third of my children of siblings, 1 boy and 3 girls, and she's between the 2 girls. Tavia was fun and funny growing up. She had her little things that she did that, all the siblings played together. She made everybody laugh. She was really silly, but really caring.
If you would have known her, you would say, oh my God, I just love being around her because she's so bubbly, so happy all the time.
She was one of those ones that people just draw to her.
By the time she was in high school, Tavia was drawing attention from the opposite sex as well.
She had this bright, big, pretty smile. And she had pretty big eyes too, but she was gorgeous. Guys were attracted to Tavia by the fact that she had a bubbly personality. She was fun to be around, down to earth, and really funny.
Despite all the attention from the boys at school, Tavia never lost sight of the bigger picture.
Tavia stuck with her education, and that was the only point that she had. All she wanted was to be in the books, be successful, and make it in life.
Tavia stayed in school. She stayed on the honor roll. There was only one time that I can remember that she missed the honor roll and she cried. But she was really high on her studies in school. She stayed in her books. She always wanted to be a nurse. She wanted to start out in phlebotomy, then get more education and become a nurse.
But there was one young man who Tavia was willing to take off from her schoolwork to be with.
Hey, boo.
Hey, baby. What are you doing?
Lamondre Tucker.
What do you think? To see you.
Most of the girls loved him.
Baby, I told you I needed to study all day. Mondre was a handsome boy. He was. He had long hair, tall. This always was Mondre. Oh, Mondre would do this, or Mondre wanted to do that.
A star athlete on the football field, Lamondre had been smitten with Tavia since middle school and held a torch for her even after Tavia put the brakes on their relationship.
They started dating in the 8th grade. He would come to her birthday parties, and they would talk and everything.
By their senior year in high school, the pair's friendship had morphed into a full-fledged romance.
You know my mama catch us, we're in trouble, right?
I was not thinking about your mama.
I think what drew Tavia to Lamondre was that he was in school playing football, star football player, just goofy like her, just a nice personality like her. She liked horses, and he rode horses with a trail ride club. Just personality, I believe, drew her close to him.
He was a very talented football player, and she was a very outgoing cheerleader. That kind of furnishes a backdrop for how they came together. And they were very close.
Tavia was happy with her relationship with Lamondre.
Tavia was in love with Lamondre. It wasn't just love. She was actually in love with him. She really cared about it.
So, after high school, you think we'll be together forever?
Of course.
Me too.
By the spring of 2008, with graduation looming, life had never looked better for the young couple. Tavia had been accepted to Southern University, while Lamondre was fielding offers from major college football programs.
He had discussed college scholarships with a number of schools.
Tavia was attracted to Mondre from football, and he kept his head in his books. She was the smartest person. She had a great life. She had things that she had planned.
But that summer after graduation, Tavia made a confession to her close friend, Sharon Green.
See what's going on. Okay, I gotta say something.
She was like, you can't tell anybody, but I think I might be pregnant.
You're pregnant? Okay.
She said that Mondre was the father.
You're serious?
I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
I'm trying to go to school. Yeah, I can't go to class with a baby. You can do it.
So she took a pregnancy test and she was pregnant. And at that point, she told her family and decided to keep the baby.
I was kind of shocked when I found out that Tavia was intimate at all. I didn't think Tavia was doing anything like that. But, you know, considering she's a teenager, you know, that's what teenagers do. I told her, don't worry about it. Just do what you need to do and, you know, we'll take care of the baby.
I was excited for her when she got pregnant. I honestly was. I was like, you know, I have a new niece or nephew by my baby sister.
All right, y'all. Presents, come on.
As for Lamondre, he seemed thrilled at the prospect of being a father.
He said, it's my baby. I'll do what I can to take care of it.
He was excited. He actually told my mom and myself that the baby in the ultrasound actually looked like him.
He gonna play basketball. Because I already did football, so we already got that discovered.
With Lamondre standing by Tavia's side, the couple's future still seemed as bright as ever.
Yeah, all in all, it looked like a good relationship, like they were going to last.
Even with pregnancy, the couple kept working towards their goals. Tavia was preparing to enroll in Southern University, and Lamondre was working hard to boost his GPA to better his chances of getting into a school with great academics and great football.
But little did anyone know that in just 2 short months, a shocking disappearance would rip apart their lives. A mystery that would propel a family on a frantic search for the truth and leave a community desperate for answers.
We didn't know whether something had happened or she was lost somewhere. We didn't know.
In the fall of 2008, 18-year-old Tavia Sills seemed on top of the world. Smart, beautiful, and deeply ambitious, Tavia was well on her way to fulfilling her lifelong dream of becoming a nurse.
Tavia always wanted to help others throughout her life, and that's basically what she did. She stayed in her books. When she graduated, she went on to Southern University. She did her very best. Even when she got into college, she was determined to make the grade and do what she had to do.
And the fact that she was 5 months pregnant didn't slow Tavia down one bit.
She finished school. She's in college now. Tavia's finna have a baby. Perfect. Tavia was in love with Mondre since middle school, so it was a joy.
Lamondre was really supportive, even though he was focused on getting his academics in order so that he could play college football at the highest possible level. He always made time for Tavia.
But on the evening of September 9th, 2008, Tavia and Lamondre's life takes a dramatic turn. It starts when Detective Rodney Demery of the Shreveport Police Department receives a call from Tavia's mother, Vicki Britton.
Miss Britton reported that Miss Sills, her daughter, had not returned home. She was very, very in touch with her daughter. I think they had a very special relationship. The fact that Tavia didn't call her alarmed her.
Detective Demery heads to the Sills home to take a statement.
Can you tell us the last time you seen Tavia?
It was about 7:30. She said her and Lamondre was gonna go out.
Tavia came in and she told me that Lamondre wanted to know, was it okay if he took her to meet his sister on his dad's side? She looked at me and she said, I love you. I said, I love you too, baby. And she said, okay, I'm gone. And I said, okay.
Vicki says Lamondre returned to their home a half hour later, all alone.
He knocked on my bedroom door and I said, come in. And Lamondre said, I just come to tell you that I dropped Tavia out at the apartment.
He took Tavia to the Prince Village apartment so she could see her sister. And he left her there, and then he returned to her home and explained to her parents that he had left her there.
It's unlike Tavia not to answer her phone.
Well, maybe there's a reasonable explanation. Maybe her phone died or something.
Well, you see, there is something else?
I told him about the rape.
According to Vicky, the incident had occurred at a nearby park while Tavia and Lamondre were on a date back in July.
Tavia and Lamondre went riding, and they parked at the David Raines Park.
2 guys came to the car, put guns to their head.
Whoa! Oh my God! Shut the hell up, or you're dead.
They blindfolded my sister and made Lamondre drive. And they drove her past the train station that's right up the road from the park. And once they got down there, they took her out the car, still blindfolded.
She was scared for her life. She didn't know what to do. And she said she automatically started praying. And then after a period of time of them just constantly beating her over and over, she started to hear Mondre scream. And she thought they had to be hitting him.
He said, I'm pregnant. Please, you don't want to do this. Please.
They threw her on the ground, they stomped on her, they raped her.
This terrible event went on for a while, but before the attackers fled the scene, they delivered a threat to Lamondre and Tavia.
Don't tell anybody, or I'll kill you and your family.
When Tavia told me that, I told her she needed to call the police. And she was telling me that they had told her that if she told anybody, they were going to kill the whole family. And I told her, don't worry about us. God had us. We were going to be safe. And she called the police department.
But as she spoke to police, Tavia began having second thoughts.
She asked the police if she reported it, would they be able to protect her family? And the police told her they couldn't guarantee her that. So therefore, the rape never got reported because she wouldn't. I tried to report it, but because of her age, because of Tavia's age, she had to be the one to do it.
Thankfully, a hospital visit revealed the rape had caused no harm to Tavia's unborn child. Tavia was relieved, and in the months that followed, she and Lamondre tried to stay positive and put their life back together. But it wasn't easy.
I noticed a lot of change in her. She didn't want to sleep in her own bed. She didn't want to sit near a window.
It seemed like her and Lamondre were there for each other in the wake of the attack, but something like that could really hurt a relationship, especially one where the couple is expecting a child.
For detectives, the rape allegations are a significant development in Tavia's disappearance.
Maybe these 2 guys came back. Is it possible that they had heard that Tavia told her family about the attack, and they wanted to make sure that she could never testify against them?
But without an incident report, investigators don't have much to work with. So they start with the one person who might be able to help them, Lamondre.
When I spoke with Miss Britton, when she explained that her daughter was with Tucker, at that point, my thought is that I need to talk to him. He was the last person that she was with. So if he did drop her off where he said he did, or anything along those lines, I wanted to get that information from him.
Well, do you know where Lamondre might be right now?
No, but I can call him and we can get him over here right now.
Lamondre is more than willing to help detectives any way he can.
He was just willing to share a helping hand.
He just came to the house and he sat on the back of my car before the officer started talking to him.
He gave Detective Demery the same version of events that he had given to Vicky Britton, Tavia's mother. Said that he had dropped her off at the Prince Village Apartments.
According to Lamondre, he and Tavia left her parents' house a few minutes before 7:30, bound for his sister's house.
Once we got to my sister's house, I don't know how many times, and no one answered. So when we was going back to her parents' house, she said she wanted to go to her sister's house. I said, that's fine.
He say, well, me and Tay, we talked about the baby and things like that, and she said she needed some clothes and her hair done, so I dropped her off at the apartments.
So after I dropped her at her sister's house, I went back to her parents' house just to tell her where she's at.
And have you spoken with Tavia since then?
No, I've been trying to find her. I tried to figure out where she might be. Nowhere. I'm just hoping it had nothing to do with the incident.
You mean the assault?
Yeah.
You have any idea who these men were?
No, I was too worried. I was too scared, especially for Tavia.
Lamondre was cooperative, and there was no evidence of foul play, so I think everyone was still holding out hope that Tavia would safely turn up.
After speaking with Lamondre, investigators reach out to Tavia's sister, Tequila. She tells them Tavia never made it to her apartment that night.
I was actually in the hospital when I found out Tavia was missing.
Tavia didn't call me. She didn't come and visit me, and I thought that was very unusual for Tavia, so I started to get a little worried.
At this point, there were a lot of questions. Had someone been following Tavia and abducted her when Lamondre dropped her off outside her sister's apartment? Had Lamondre seen her enter the apartment? Or did he just assume she got in there safely? And who are these men that attacked her and Lamondre in July? Are they possibly responsible for her disappearance?
But as the search for Tavia intensifies, another revelation will come to light. One that will rock Tavia's friends and family to their core.
I balled up like a baby and my heart was racing. You know, I was praying to God to help me, help my heart stop racing so I'll be able to accept what I'm about to hear.
It's September 9th, 2008. 18-year-old mother-to-be Tavia Sills has disappeared without a trace.
That particular night, we didn't get no sleep. We got up the next morning and we went about looking around.
I was concerned about my child. You know, I was praying to God to help me.
We just went asking around, anybody saw her, all of her friends and all that, and no one seemed to have saw her. I knew then something was wrong.
Shreveport investigators share that fear, especially after learning that two unknown men had violently raped Tavia a few months earlier and threatened to kill her if she or her boyfriend Lamondre told anyone about the incident.
That was very troubling and certainly made these unknown assailants public enemy number one in this case and likely responsible for Tavia's disappearance.
Knowing that Tavia is 5 months pregnant and is possibly the target of a murder plot, detectives waived the mandatory 24-hour grace period. And with the help of her family, the search for Tavia is at full speed within hours.
We printed flyers. People from school, from Green Oaks High School, got off the buses and came. Help look, search.
We had put out posters and tried to get her picture put out on media. At the time, we had a lot of people trying to help us find her.
As the mystery intensifies, so do the fears.
I was thinking like, oh my God, where can she be? This isn't like Tay to just leave and don't come back for a couple of days.
It's a conclusion police are also reaching. Tavia doesn't fit the profile of a teen runaway.
She seemed to be a very, very vibrant and outgoing person. She had a lot of friends and a lot of people respected and admired her. She was going to her second semester of college.
The thing that really started to convince everybody that foul play was involved is that it was out of character for Tavia to go off and not check back in with her parents in some fashion. She was a very good girl. She was a homebody by and large, and she stayed with her parents and her family. She was also pregnant.
On day 3 of the search, Detective Rod Demery receives a call from a colleague that changes everything.
I get a phone call from a person at the police department and told me that they had found a body at a desolate location in a pond in the same area of town where Tavia lived.
There was an older couple who were out fishing this particular day, and the man noticed what he observed on the surface of the pond to be a body.
As Detective Demery races to the scene, he gets a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach.
I kind of suspect that it was going to have a very bad ending.
But after the corpse is pulled from the pond, it's clear a quick identification won't be easy.
It's pretty far decomposed. Can't tell if it's male or female.
You know, as the body starts to decompose under the water, it's kind of rapid. So it was very, very difficult to determine whether or not it was a male, female, or even the race.
Can we determine what was the cause of death?
We're guessing this person's been shot. We got a casing and a piece of gum.
There was no way to tell what the initial wounds were until the body was actually brought out and examined. We knew she had on some blue jeans and some sneakers. I instructed the crime scene folks on what areas I wanted to pay particular attention to. We retrieved some chewing gum to try to grab some DNA. Then it takes several weeks.
While awaiting the results of the examination, Detective Demery pays Tavia's family another visit.
There was no certainty that it was Miss Sills at that point, but it was suspected. And I went to her house.
And that's when he told me that they had found a body in the pond. And that they had every reason to believe that it was Tavia.
What was she wearing?
What we saw so far, she had on jeans, blue shoes, and a brown
my God,
hoodie.
No.
It was her.
Oh my God, no.
I just couldn't believe that this was real. This was happening to me. You know, one of my children. I just felt like my life was over. I broke down. It took at least 3 or 4 of them to keep me up. I cried. I asked for my kids. I wanted my mom. I laid in the bed with my mom for hours.
To know that they not only lost their daughter, but also their grandchild. It's just horrendous pain.
While Tavia's family and friends struggle to come to grips with what's happened, examiners at the coroner's office are trying to piece together exactly how Tavia died.
Once they were able to turn the body over, it was immediately apparent to them that there were gunshot wounds in the body and that it was not a case of an accidental drowning. It was a case of murder.
Tavia had a gunshot wound to the back that pierced the lung. She had one, they said, grazed the armpit, and if I'm not mistaken, one grazed the Adam's apple area of her neck.
A search of the area where Tavia's body was found yields additional evidence.
They found 3 .40 caliber shell casings, but no gun. This looks like an execution, and starting to look more and more like the 2 men who assaulted Lamondre and Tavia back in July carried out her murder. But how do you find these men when you have no idea who they are or what they look like?
My next question is, where's the gun now?
But when Detective Demery does track down the gun's whereabouts, it turns the whole case upside down.
I was terribly bothered by the case. It's one of those cases that made me rethink what I did for a living.
You don't have to do no, please don't do it.
On September 12, 2008, the search for missing 18-year-old Tavia Sills came to a heartbreaking end when her pregnant body was found floating in a pond a few miles from her home in Shreveport, Louisiana.
She had been shot to death.
The first thing that went through my head when they found Tavia's body was the fact that I don't have a best friend anymore. She's gone, and I can't find anybody to replace her because it's nobody else like her.
Whoa, hey, shut the hell up or you're dead.
A couple of months prior to that murder, Miss Sills was raped and beaten at a park.
She was scared for her life because she was threatened.
Don't tell anybody.
Told her not to tell anyone or they would kill everybody.
So far, we got a .40 caliber casing.
Shell casings found at the crime scene suggest a possible connection between Tavia's murder and the prior assault on her and her boyfriend, Lamondre Tucker.
My next order of business was to find him. I immediately went to his home. His mother was there.
Miss Tucker,
Yes?
could you tell me if Lamondre is home?
No, he isn't.
Can you tell me where he is?
He's probably with his girlfriend.
But in a shocking twist, the girlfriend Lamondre's mother is referring to isn't Tavia.
I found out Tucker also had another girlfriend. He had a child with that girlfriend.
What is his girlfriend's name?
Jeanette Banks.
Can you tell me where she lives?
Yeah, she just lives right down the street.
Detectives find Jeanette and immediately start pressing her for information.
We need to speak with your boyfriend, Lamondre Tucker. Is he here?
No, he isn't.
Do you mind if we ask you some questions about you and his relationship?
Okay.
To start, how long you two been together?
Jeanette told them that she and Lamondre did have a young child together and that they had been dating on and off for over a year.
Well, the reason we're here today is a young lady was found murdered, and we think she was involved with Lamondre. Do you know about his relationship with Tavia Sills?
Yes, I did.
She admitted she knew about the relationship. In fact, just before the murder, a friend told her that Lamondre was expecting another baby with Tavia.
Well, how did his relationship with Miss Sills make you feel?
How do you think it made me feel? I was pissed. You know, I just wanted him to start doing right by me, and I wanted her to stay away from my man.
I think his girlfriend had issue with maybe his philandering, for a better word.
Given the fact that Tavia's attackers are still in the wind, investigators wonder if Jeanette might have had a hand in the murder.
I don't know if she knew the extent of his relationship with Tavia, but I learned that Tavia's pregnancy was going to cause some problems.
But Jeanette is quick to rebuff any such suggestion.
When she heard about that Tavia was pregnant, that Lamondre was messing with Tavia, that she no longer wanted anything to do with.
Did you have anything to do with Tavia's murder?
Of course not. Look, Lamondre ain't worth killing nobody over. And besides, I just heard about Tavia passing away this morning from a friend, so I just found out.
At first, it was some suspicions that she was involved, but After the investigation went on and everything, she wasn't involved.
At one point in time, we thought the girl was actually in on it, but it was proven that she wasn't.
While detectives can rule Jeanette out as a suspect, the fact that Lamondre Tucker had more than one woman in his life is troublesome. Hoping to learn more about Lamondre and Tavia's relationship, investigators sit down with Tavia's best friend and confidant, Sharon Green.
To start off, Tavia was happy with Lamondre, but eventually it went sour because he was kind of like a ladies' man.
He was on the football team, so he kind of had an ego, and he would flirt, text other girls while he was with Tavia.
At the time that Tavia became pregnant, she really wanted the child to be his child, but he wasn't happy about the fact that she was pregnant.
Sharon tells detectives that after the alleged rape, Lamondre seemed to have a change of heart and began doting on Tavia once again. But the more details Tavia divulged about the alleged rape, the more suspicious Sharon became.
When Tavia told me about the rape and all of the stuff that happened in the middle of the night, my first thought was Lamondre set this up.
And even after it happened, he never went out to try to figure out who did it or what happened or who the guys were.
He wasn't concerned at all.
But more telling to Sharon were Lamondre's lack of physical wounds.
She says that she could hear someone was hitting Lamondre with a gun. I actually told her, I believe he had you set up because if he's hitting with a gun, he's gonna bruise. Some bruises gonna show.
If you was being beat with a gun or anything, punches or anything, you're too bright to not have not one scratch or bruise.
Could Lamondre really have set up such an elaborate ruse in an attempt to force Tavia to have a miscarriage? Detectives are skeptical, but Sharon doesn't waver.
Absolutely.
I honestly believe that the motive was to get rid of the child, not to kill her, but to get rid of the child.
But before detectives can confirm Sharon Green's assumptions, another shocking piece of evidence will surface. One that proves just how deep one woman's love for her man was, and how far someone would go to silence her forever.
She was in a pond with bullet holes in her, and there's snakes swimming around her. This guy's firing more shots at her, and she's thinking about him getting in trouble. It's just amazing.
Following the shooting death of 18-year-old Tavia Sills, police in Shreveport, Louisiana found themselves swimming in a sea of potential suspects. But Tavia's best friend, Sharon Green, has just told police that Tavia's murder and her brutal rape 2 months earlier may well have been orchestrated by the father of Tavia's unborn child, high school sweetheart Lamondre Tucker.
Her friend Sharon Green came and told the police that the whole thing about the rape was because she was pregnant at the time. That was Lamondre's thing that he set up to try to make her lose the baby.
She was beaten rather severely and raped. The culprits were never found for that offense, but the significance of it lies in the timing of the rape in relationship to the timing of the murder and the fact that she was pregnant.
But could Lamondre, who'd carried a torch for Tavia for years, really be behind such a terrible crime?
On the surface, it seemed impossible. This was someone she loved and trusted. They had known each other their whole lives. Their families knew each other. But at the same time, if he was capable of possibly staging a rape, what's to say he couldn't orchestrate a murder?
Either way, investigators know they need to find Lamondre and talk to him again. Within hours, they track him down.
He was at his aunt's house, which was in another neighborhood. And I immediately went to that neighborhood and gathered up Mr. Tucker and brought him in for questioning.
But if Lamondre thinks he's in trouble, he sure doesn't act like it.
He had this bravado that I don't have anything to be concerned about.
Well, we're not going to beat around the bush, Lamondre, because we know about the rape, we know about the other girlfriend, and we know you probably weren't too happy about being a father again. So tell us the truth.
I told y'all, man. I didn't know nothing about the death or the rape.
I listened to a story, just to let him get it out, I guess. I just didn't buy anything that he said.
And why should we believe that?
Why wouldn't you believe it?
Following Lamondre's interrogation, investigators decide to hold him overnight. During the next few hours, they worked feverishly to build their case against him.
After I became involved, I realized that Tucker had told the police earlier on that he had dropped her off at an apartment complex. And then I did find out that there was video surveillance at that apartment complex.
It confirmed, in fact, that Tavia had never been there that night.
That morning, Detective Dimery brings Lamondre in for another round of questioning.
I told him that we had recovered the video surveillance from that apartment complex. And he didn't drop her off.
You're not on the footage. Tavia's not on the footage either.
You're kidding, right?
No, we're serious. So where'd you take her that night? Because it wasn't to her sister's apartment for sure.
It's then that Lamondre makes a startling confession.
He admits that on September 9th, he and Tavia went fishing at the same pond where they found Tavia's body, and they weren't alone.
He was with a friend of his, Marcus Taylor. He said that he found a tackle box with a firearm or something or another. And as he continued to talk, he kind of caught himself up in his own stories that were just not making any sense.
Tavia thought it was cute to play like it was an action movie or something. And she dropped it and it went off.
So it accidentally went off 3 times because Tavia had 3 gunshot wounds in her body.
According to Lamondre, after the gun discharged 3 times, he and Marcus panicked and threw the gun into a nearby drainage ditch.
If we go out there, will we find the gun?
Yes, sir. I put it in the ditch because I knew y'all would try to blame me about something like this.
We went to that location. The diver located the firearm that matched the shell casings at the crime scene. It was semi-automatic, .40 caliber.
With Lamondre in custody, the next step is hauling in the other man allegedly present at the scene, Lamondre's 21-year-old friend, Marcus Taylor.
He had, educational problems, learning problems, a learning disability.
He was mentally very challenged. Today's nomenclature would describe him as intellectually disabled. He was a grown man, lived with his mother, but had 2 children of his own.
Marcus, you want to tell us about a fishing trip you and Lamondre took?
When investigators sit down with Marcus on September 18th, 2008, at first he's reluctant to talk.
Fishing trip down to the pond with you, Lamondre, and Tavia.
Taylor had no idea that Tucker had told me everything. He was very reluctant. He was very guarded, denying everything, absolutely admitting to nothing. At that point, Marcus Taylor found out that we knew everything.
We knew about the tackle box. We knew about the gun.
Okay. I'll tell you everything.
Taylor actually went to the crime scene with me and showed me where everything took place.
At the crime scene, Marcus Taylor's story differs remarkably from Lamondre's version of events.
Marcus says that it was no accident that they found a gun that evening.
Tucker had solicited Taylor's help in this, and indeed it was Taylor's gun. Taylor also accompanied Tucker and Tavia to the pond, ostensibly to convince her or to lure her there under the guise that they were going to go fishing.
Taylor said he began to pretend as if though he was fishing.
Marcus, how do I do that?
You just pull the little fishing thing down and throw it out there.
He said he looked over to his left and he saw that Lamondre had the gun pointed at Tavia.
Lamondre, can you help me?
He said Lamondre fired a shot and fired another shot. At some point, Miss Seals was on the ground.
They had doused her with lighter fluid and was trying to set on fire.
They threw the accelerant on her body. And Taylor told me that she jumped in the water at that point. She was conscious. She had to be in pain. She had to be frightened to death. And the water was literally a snake pit.
This area is hazardous and known for being snake infested. At this time of year, it would have been swarming.
Marcus says he heard Tavia begging Lamondre to spare her life.
No, Mom, please don't do this. No, you don't have to do this. I promise I won't fail.
Tavia was in the water and she was saying, Lamondre, leave. I won't tell anybody what you did. I love you. At some point, Taylor got scared. He said that he just took off running. And he said when he got halfway down the pathway, he heard another gunshot or another couple of gunshots. She was in a pond with bullet holes in her. They had tried to burn her, and there's snakes swimming around her. This guy's firing more shots at her, and she's thinking about him getting in trouble. It's just amazing.
Based on Marcus Taylor's statement, investigators believe that Tavia bled to death in the snake-infested water just moments after Marcus and Lamondre fled the scene.
Marcus, we really do appreciate you coming here and telling us the truth.
Marcus Taylor's statement gives investigators everything they need to hear to charge both him and Lamondre Tucker with Tavia's murder.
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that Lamondre had actually taken Tavia's life. He just didn't come off like that type of person. He really didn't. It was just a total shock. It really was.
I think he's insane to think that he can actually do this to a person. Who would do that to a human being?
But as this case heads to trial, prosecutors may have one last hurdle to jump over. It seems Lamondre could walk on a technicality.
One of the things that I worried about most in this case is that he did not understand the legal rights that led to his own confession.
On March 20th, 2011, Lamondre Tucker, the man prosecutors say masterminded the murder of his pregnant 18-year-old girlfriend Tavia Sills, is escorted into a Shreveport, Louisiana courtroom to stand trial.
I just couldn't believe he had did something to her. I couldn't believe that Lamondre actually killed my daughter. This was Tavia, my child, my middle girl.
It's hard to get your head around why an 18-year-old young man would conceive of the idea that it would be necessary to kill your girlfriend and her baby. I mean, no right-thinking human being would ever consider something like that.
Prosecutors begin laying out their case against Lamondre. However, the judge has already ruled that one crucial detail is inadmissible.
Well, the rape allegations, we never were able to use that in Tucker's murder trial because we were never able to prove that Tucker was behind the so-called rape.
The state had no doubt Lamondre was responsible for orchestrating the rape, and we think that he got Marcus and another friend to do it. But because the state couldn't prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, the judge decided that they couldn't use that to establish motive for committing a violent crime against Tavia.
So instead of outlining the rape allegations, in their opening statements, prosecutors argue that ending Tavia's pregnancy was at the heart of Lamondre's murder motive.
The motive here is that Tucker had another relationship with another woman by whom he had a child. And that was the relationship that he believed to be the more serious one for him. That is the relationship that he did not want disturbed. And so when Tavia became pregnant, Tucker became obsessed with removing that child and Tavia from the scene because that would interfere with his other relationship.
I don't think Lamondre was in love with Tavia. I think it was just something that someone he could be with when he wanted to or felt like he could.
According to prosecutors, Lamondre put this deadly plan into motion on the early evening of September 9th, 2008.
He tells his friend Marcus Taylor to bring a gun, lighter fluid, and matches, and they go to Tavia's house to pick her up. Eventually, they all drive to the pond under the guise that they're all going fishing.
It was their intent to burn her up and therefore destroy any evidence of her body.
He shot her 3 times. The fatal bullet hit her right lung and filled up and killed her.
Then after that, Lamondre returned to the Brittons' home. He lied right to their faces and told them that he had dropped off Tavia at her sister's, knowing full well that she was never going to come home.
But as the jury grapples with this gruesome story, what they hear next is even more jaw-dropping.
Tucker thought it was his child, but it was discovered that after her death and in the DNA that it was not Tucker's. It was someone else's child.
Lamondre was shocked to learn that Tavia's baby wasn't his.
Tavia and Sean's relationship emerged out of the blue. Tavia told me about her and Sean's relationship, and she said that they had feelings for each other. Sean, I do not know too much about him, but he was a really nice guy.
While friends, family, and even Lamondre struggle with this terrible twist, Defense attorneys counter by asserting that police did not adhere to due process when eliciting confessions from Lamondre and his accomplice, Marcus Taylor.
The emphasis was on the fact that he was very young and that he did not understand the legal rights that Detective Demery gave him, and therefore his confessions were coerced.
On March 23, 2011, the jury retires to deliberate Lamondre's fate.
They found him guilty of first-degree murder. And then after a period of time, the judge imposed the death penalty.
I'm like most of my people not really believing in a death penalty. I'm the type of person that if you do the crime, and you do that type of crime, you should get what you deserve. Get what you deserve.
I think Mr. Tucker richly deserved the death penalty. It's one of the most egregious crimes I've ever seen, and it has left remorseless punishment on the victim's family.
He showed no remorse. He never apologized. He never said, I'm sorry. Just nothing. Even when they found him guilty, I stood there. I just knew that he was going to look at me and tell me, Miss Britton, I'm so sorry. But he never did.
As for Marcus Taylor, he's also found guilty.
I don't think he really grasped the true depth of what he was doing. So he wound up, Taylor, getting 30 years.
I believe in my heart, rather, that Lamondre just used him because he knew that this boy had a learning disability. His IQ was very low, and he needed somebody that he could use to help him do what he done.
He just kind of seemed like the type of person that you can just say, hey, come on, let's go jump off this bridge. And if you're his friend, he's gonna go with you.
But for Tavia's mother, Vicky, the verdicts are bittersweet. And while she knows it will never replace all she's lost, she's dedicated her life to making sure other young women don't suffer the same fate as her daughter.
After Tavia's death, I fought with myself to do something about these type of relationships. What could I do? So I became an advocate, but I got really concerned about what God had to say about domestic violence. And God has a lot to say about domestic violence. I want to see these young girls come out of these unhealthy relationships because it could cost them their life.